The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's episode is going to be awesome. I'm so stoked for this one. I have an article here that old boy sent me earlier, and it is next level amazing what this article is saying. If this is true, it is completely and totally groundbreaking stuff. So let's get right to it. Let's not goof off here. This article comes from the scottishsun.co.uk. And the headline is Escaped Loch Ness Monster. Baffled Fife man reckons Nessie could have escaped after strange sighting. It was written by Alice Walker, and it was published September 18th, 2020. A Fife man reckons the Loch Ness Monster might have escaped into the North Sea after snapping a strange picture in the Highlands. Andrew Brunton, 56, says he snapped the curious sight on Tuesday while hoping to catch a glimpse of dolphins at Chancery Point in Fortrose. And in the article here, it shows the pictures that he took. So I might do an episode of Paranormal News just on this article, just so that you guys can see the pictures. But if not, you can go to the website. Intrigued, Andrew revealed he has no idea what the creature could be, but he is hoping other Scots can help shed some light on his sighting, which came just one day after learning about Nessie at the Loch Ness experience. Retired asset manager for Fife Council, Andrew, said, "Maybe Nessie has escaped and gone up the coast. I had gone to Fortrose to see the dolphins at Chancery Point, but they didn't come out. I had been to Loch Ness the day before and thought some of the pictures of Nessie looked similar to the one I took. I don't know what it is. Who am I to make that judgment? It's thought the snap could just show a swimmer, but Andrew revealed he only spotted the swimmer closer to the shot when taking the picture. He added, I noticed the swimmer closer in the shot. They had the full wetsuit and swimming cap on, and that is what I was trying to take a picture of. But I didn't spot the object further back in the water until I was looking back at the pictures. It comes after we told that a fireman spotted a 12-foot hump in the water near kayakers. We also shared a clear photo of Nessie which went viral, but experts think it's an enormous catfish." So this is the website itself giving a little context to the photographs. And that is the end of this article. It was a very short article, but it is a very important article. Now, when I first read this, I thought, wait a minute. Loch Ness isn't on the North Sea. I mean, the North Sea is close to it, but it's not like directly there where the North Sea inlet is. So how the hell could this be possible? So I actually had to look this up and find out. So I started by looking up the name of this place, Chancery Point in Fortrose. So that's where I started my little hunt here. And I'm going to read you what it says about Chancery Point. It says, Chancery Point lies at the end of Chancery Ness, a spit of land extending into the Moray Firth, between Fortrose and Rosemarkie on the Black Isle, Scotland. Okay, that's the information on Chancery Point. So I thought, okay, what the hell is the Moray Firth? Let me look that up. This is what it says about the Moray Firth. The Moray Firth is a roughly triangular inlet of the North Sea. north and east of Inverness, which is in the Highland Council area of north of Scotland. It is the largest firth in Scotland, stretching from Duncansby Head near John O'Groats in the north, in the Highland Council area, and Fraserburgh in the east, in the Aberdeenshire Council area, to Inverness and the Bewley Firth in the west. So basically, the Moray Firth is this long 500 miles of coastline. So I thought, okay, let me look up Loch Ness to make sure that I know what I'm doing here. And I also looked at a bunch of different maps of all these areas. So essentially what it is the Loch Ness is 23 miles southwest of Inverness. Okay? So it is inland of the North Sea. But here is something that I did not know. It is connected to the North Sea through a bunch of different little, here in America we would call them like little river systems and stuff. But basically you got the River Oich, I'm probably not pronouncing that right. You have the Caledonian Canal, the Loch Oich, and the Bona Narrows opens out onto Loch Dockflor, which feeds the River Ness. Okay? And then ultimately all that leads to the North Sea through the Moray Firth. So there's a direct line from Loch Ness all the way to the North Sea through all of these little other lochs and little rivers and stuff that leads right out to the sea, which in a way makes sense because pretty much all rivers lead to the ocean eventually, right? So the basic concept of this article, this guy says he saw Nessie and took pictures of Nessie, and the pictures he took look like all the other pictures of Nessie that you've ever seen. It's like a head sticking out of the water and a long thing behind it. But he took these at Connery Point. Now, Connery Point is a place where people go to see dolphins a lot because apparently there's a lot of dolphins that show up there and put on a show for you. So that's what that place is kind of famous for, is the dolphins. So he's there to check out dolphins, and he takes pictures of this swimmer that's out in the water, and later on when he's looking at the pictures, he notices this giant Nessie there in the background of the picture. Now, I would think you would see that when you're looking at the swimmer, but who knows? But he captured a picture of Nessie at the Connery Point, which means Nessie left the Loch Ness. And now she went to Connery Point, which is a direct inlet of the North Sea, so Nessie could have went out to the ocean. Now, I don't believe that this means that you will never see Nessie at Loch Ness again because now she's in the ocean. I think this means something completely different and more important that will shed light on this mystery, a lot of light. I think what this means is that Nessie travels back and forth from the North Sea to Loch Ness. Now, maybe Loch Ness is a breeding grounds or something like that where they go to lay eggs. And then they swim back out to the North Sea. There's animals like the salmon, for example, that travel great distances just to lay eggs and then die. Turtles, big sea turtles, will travel great distances to lay their eggs on a certain beach and then go back out to the ocean. So it's not unheard of in nature. That's just a theory. I'm not saying that's definitely the case. But what I think this means is that Nessie isn't trapped in that loch like we all thought. Nessie can leave and enter into any of the other lochs that are in this pathway to the North Sea and can actually go out into the North Sea. If all of this is correct, if it's all actually connected like it says it is on all the different articles. That's amazing. That is 100% groundbreaking because that tells us that the reason why Nessie isn't found when we do large-scale sonar sweeps of the loch and stuff like that is maybe she's not there. Maybe at that point in time, she's out in the ocean, chilling out in the North Sea somewhere doing her thing, whatever they do out there. There could be a very large population of these things hanging out in the North Sea somewhere. Somewhere where we don't go. It could be very common to see Nessie out there. There's just nobody out there to look. And then at certain points of the year, she travels in for whatever reason, and people get sightings of her, take pictures or whatever like that. But there's never been a body discovered of a Loch Ness monster that's died in the loch and just kind of floated up to the surface. And when they do sonar sweeps, sometimes they get big hits, sometimes they don't. But there's never anything really, really definitive. Maybe that's why. Maybe her permanent residence is not Loch Ness. Maybe the permanent residence of Nessie is actually the North Sea. Maybe it's even further than that. Maybe the North Sea is just part of the trip. Maybe she actually resides somewhere completely different. It's very interesting stuff. I was under the impression that the Loch Ness was landlocked, to where the Loch Ness monster was trapped in the loch and couldn't get out. That was always the theory, that it was some sort of sea life that had made its way into the loch back when it was connected, and now it was trapped there. That was always what the theory was, with a lot of different people. But this means that maybe that's not true. If in fact the Loch Ness is not landlocked and isolated, if it leads to a bunch of little river systems that lead to other lochs and leads eventually to the North Sea, if that's true, then that means that Nessie could come and go. That's amazing. Now, I'm not saying 100% that's a fact, because I don't know for sure. This is so fresh. Literally, I just started looking at this. Like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes before we started the show. So I'm not 100% positive that Loch Ness is actually connected to the North Sea through all these little river systems and canals and stuff. I don't know for sure. But that's what it looks like from my initial looking up of the stuff, is that it leads to that. I'm going to read you what it says on Loch Ness here, and you tell me what you think, if you think that means that it's connected. And please forgive any mispronunciations, because a lot of this is Scottish stuff. Loch Ness is a large, deep, freshwater loch in the Scottish Highlands, extending for approximately 37 kilometers, which is 23 miles, southwest of Inverness. Its surface is 16 meters, 52 feet above sea level. Loch Ness is best known for alleged sightings of the cryptozoological Loch Ness monster, also known affectionately as Nessie. It is connected at the southern end by the River Oich. Remember me talking about the River Oich? And a section of the Caledonian Canal to Loch Oich. At the northern end, there is Bona Narrows, which opens out into Loch Dochfor, which feeds the River Ness, and a further section of canal to Inverness, ultimately leading to the North Sea via the Moray Firth. It is one of a series of interconnected, murky bodies of water in Scotland. Its water visibility is exceptionally low due to a high peat content in the surrounding soil. Now, that tells me that it's connected, because it's connected at its north end and it's connected at its south end. You've got a river connecting to the southern end, and you have the Bona Narrows, and it opens up into another loch called Loch Dochfor in the northern end. So on both sides of Loch Ness, it leads to other bodies of water. And those other bodies of water lead to other bodies of water, which leads eventually to the North Sea. That's fascinating. So that tells me that Nessie could travel up and down that series of bodies of water, just like we would travel down a roadway or a trail. Now, I'm sure in some of them it's a little bit shallower water, and maybe it's a little bit more difficult for her to make her way through. I don't know. I've never actually seen all of these bodies of water in person to judge how deep they are and all that kind of stuff. But from my initial look at this, that's pretty amazing. And that completely changes my entire thinking about the Loch Ness Monster. Now, I've always believed Nessie was real. There's some that believe she's a plesiosaur, others believe she's other things. I've always believed that Nessie was a biological creature, that she lived in the loch and there had to be a breeding population for her still to be around. That was always the trouble. If there has to be a breeding population, why aren't we finding these way more often? This is the answer to that question. There very well could be a very large breeding population of these things out in the sea. And we're not seeing them because we're not out there all the time hanging out. They only have to come up for air every once in a while. They don't have to, they're not on the surface all the time. They spend the majority of their time under the water. So you'd have to catch one surfacing for air at just the right moment. And if it's out somewhere where people usually aren't, the odds of somebody actually seeing that are very low. So to me, this is the answer to the question of why can't we find Nessie? If Nessie is real, why can't we find her? We have looked in Loch Ness. We have done sonar sweeps. We have done everything we can to try to find this creature, and we can't find it. Probably because when those things were done, Nessie wasn't there. There weren't any of that species there at the time. They were all out in the North Sea or wherever they go when they get to the North Sea. Very fascinating stuff, man. Very amazing, amazing article. And it completely changes the entire conversation as far as Loch Ness goes. So, first of all, I just want to thank Old Boy for sending me the article because this is really cool. I didn't catch this one. I didn't see it. And he saw it and sent it to me. And this is an amazing article. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinions on it and his ideas. And then we will continue from there. So go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I saw the article, guys. I think it was a day or two ago, and so I sent it to him because it was interesting. Because we've done a show about Loch Ness Monster and Nessie before, and I figured we send it and do something different for once and see, about this because we haven't done. I think we haven't done that Nessie show for I think it was like 3 years ago or 2.5, somewhere like that. So I guess we did figured we do this one. I believe it. Because the loch is deep. There's parts in the loch that people don't realize. There's like a crack, and it goes like I think it's 15 to 1,000, little around that 1,000 feet mark. And they have got stuff on sonar, like a fin here and there. But I think James is right. I think what happens is this thing goes away during the seasons. Maybe because the water gets cold, it goes into another, maybe as a crack to the next, lake or ocean, like he was saying on the north side of it. Maybe the thing hibernates. Maybe it changes because, over time, maybe it became more mammal-like and it has to, like the birds do, they fly away for the winter. Or maybe it goes to cool, like warmer water. And it found a way to, there's like a crack somewhere, or it goes back and forth. And of course, you're not going to just see it Loch Ness anymore. It's everywhere. It can go anywhere pretty much now. So it just found its way. And maybe what happens is at the certain time, it's in the Loch Ness Lake, it comes up for air. And they said there's big surgeon fish there, and catfish, they're huge, 10, 12 feet long. It could feed off of that. I don't think there's a whole bunch of them. I think there's maybe a school of them, 15, 20. The reason we don't see them is I think they're very smart animals, just like dolphins. I think they're smarter. They know when we're around, and I think they have sonar, and I think like kind of like dolphins, and they know when they just get out of the way. They've been caught here and there, but that's why you don't see it too much, because I think maybe there's a new passage or something it found, and it escapes, so it stays away from everything. We don't know what's in the ocean, guys. Like I said, We did something a couple weeks about the megalodon, that giant shark. They have sightings of it, 70-foot shark, but we don't see it all the time. Of course, the ocean's huge. You're going to see everything's there. There's some things that like certain sharks that there's only so many and we hardly see them. And once in a while they'll pop up and it happens. So that's what I think with this. And again, like we were talking earlier before we started doing the show, is I don't want Nessie to be found. And I've made this opinion before because I know what's going to happen. For one, they made it illegal to hunt it because it's considered a endangered species, because there isn't that many, what they're thinking. Two, we know it's going to be used as profit. Something like SeaWorld are going to use it when they find it and want to make more and make money off of it. Or some idiot's going to try to kill it. And that's what I'm worried about. And that's one of my biggest fears. All these creatures we do is somebody's going to kill it and put it up as a trophy. And then maybe the only one left. And that would really be a shame if that happened, because I think that would break all our hearts. The crypto community I think that would really break our hearts, because look, we found something and we killed it. And it would really, really piss everybody off, especially with Nessie, because Nessie is such a legendary creature. Those are the top 5 right there. I mean, you got Nessie, Bigfoot, the Jersey Devil, Mothman, and then what is a dog man now, and the number 6 is Chupacabra. Those are the top 5 or 6, I think. But that's like in the top. Every time you talk about crypto, it's either Nessie, Bigfoot, or UFOs. I mean, any of these, not UFOs, but those, in any kind of paranormal or unsolved mysteries, it was always Nessie, Bigfoot, and aliens. And then ghosts started getting real big with paranormal, and then all the other monsters later on. Mothman's got real big. So I've always been in love with Nessie. It's one of my favorite of all of them. I've always wanted, here's the thing is, I don't like lakes and the ocean, guys, but I like monsters. I've always have. I'm a big Godzilla fan, King Kong. I've always liked Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans. I've always liked giant monsters. Now, granted, I don't want to run into one in the ocean, because that's not going to end well for me or anybody who's with me. But it would just be so great to see something so massive and giant. You just have so much respect for it. That's why I've always liked creatures like this. I've always liked giant monsters. Always had. Since I was a kid, King Kong, Godzilla, parents, I would go out, they'd give me money, I'd go to the store. And back then it was Hughes. I think Vons owns them now. I used to buy VHS. Remember that? Some of you guys will remember VHS. I used to buy a Godzilla tape every couple weeks. I'd get some money and I'd go buy that. I had them all almost. I'd sit there and watch them for hours. Godzilla, Son of Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla, King Kong, Son of Kong, all that. Jason and Argonauts, like I said earlier. Big fan of this stuff. I watch it still. King Kong and Godzilla's coming out. I think they got postponed to December 2021, and I'm going to see it because I'm a big fan of these movies. But these monsters I've always been fascinated with. When they found the giant squid, it made me so happy because I knew they were there. And you've seen stuff through history, and they show history of these things. It hasn't been just being seen now, it's been seen for hundreds of years. And it's not just here in the Loch. It's, Champs up in Canada. And there's a couple other places they're seeing stuff now. There's one in London now. It's in the ocean. And there's one that, I don't know where it was. I think it was in the Congo. It's something there. They showed it. It's huge. And you could see it on YouTube. I'll send it to James. I could never find it. You could tell there's something there. It's this. There's footage there, just like they did in Antarctica. There's all kinds of stuff. They have that footage of that thing that comes out of the ocean, giant monster. I'll send that to James if I ever find it. But you get these creatures, and I've just been fascinated with them, and I hope we find them, but then I don't, because I don't want somebody to kill them. Now, a sea serpent and Nessie are different. I think Nessie's a different kind of creature than a giant sea serpent. I've seen a sea serpent is something like, if they killed it, it would suck, but I wouldn't be mad. It would suck because maybe it's only so many of them there, but like Nessie, there's just like a heart for there. I think James has the same thing. It's just a romantic story because of Scotland, and there's a lot of history in Scotland. I'm Scottish anyway, so it brings a lot to my ancestry. It's more of a dream of love story. If you look at it, and people are going to say love story, it is, because we all fell in love with Nessie. We see Nessie as, yeah, this monster, but it's just this. I don't think it's ever, if it exists, it's not attacking people. Some people claim it hasn't, but it doesn't. There's people who have seen it up close, and it doesn't attack. I don't think it wants anything to do with us unless we bother it. I know they have the Water Horse movie. It was about that, Nessie. It's a great movie. You guys check it out. He goes back and it's about, I think it's about that pretty much, and the Loch Ness monster, and they call it, the Water Horse, and it's a great movie. You guys need to check it out. You guys can ever see it. It came out I think 8-9 years ago. I don't know, somewhere around there. I think it was in the 2011, 12. You guys look it up. You guys will enjoy that movie. But I found this article. I knew James would like it because, again, we're big crypto fans. And I believe it. I believe that there's some possible way this thing has survived, and it's found a way to leave. Because there's people still seeing it. I know, like I said before, people make up stuff, and I believe that, or they just probably saw a giant school of fish, or a giant surgeon, or a giant catfish. But there's something there. They have pictures of fins and bodies that look like that, and they can see giant things in sonar, and it's gone. It knows when we're there. I think it's a very smart animal. And I say animal because I think it is an animal or a mammal of that sort. And I think it's very smart. It's not stupid. It's been around for a long time, and it knows how to deal with us. Remember, giant turtles, sea turtles, people don't realize they live for hundreds of years. So do sharks, some of them. 100, 200 years. Even some of these turtles, the oldest one I think is 200 or 300 years. It's been around since the 1600s. They found it. They've been studying it for around that long, and they can live that long. They do. This thing, I think, can live for a couple hundred years. I think it's been around, and there's only so many of them. And that's what I said. I don't know if I ever want them found, because, like I said, I don't want them to become a circus act. I don't want them to be murdered for science. So I kind of want the story to keep romantic. Is it just a story, or is it real? It's what you want to believe, and what you know is there. And there's a lot of history to that. I believe there's something there. I believe it was also used for money too, and everybody got onto that, and they made, what is it, Nessie? They're going to go look for Nessie. There's done so many shows just like Bigfoot. And I think these things exist, but I think they're smarter than what people think and what we give them credit for. And they stay away from everything. But when I saw this article, I read it a little bit. I sent it to James, and he's all, let's just do the show. And it was a great idea because it's one of my favorite creatures. And I'm glad we did it. And I hope you guys, when we listen to this episode, you tell me what you think. What do you think exist? Comment. Tell us that. We like to hear feedback, and we get it a lot. No, and I know people are going to say whatever they're going to say, whatever. Keep your opinions, if they're nasty, to yourself. If you have an opinion you don't agree with it, that's fine. Don't make stupid comments, though, and that's what happens. Or we'll delete it. Or don't attack our fans, because they do have opinions too, and people like to argue with it. I don't understand why people argue when we're just trying to find out if it's real or not. That's all it's about. So I hope you guys enjoyed this article, and there you go, James. That's all I have to say too much about that one, this show.
One thing that I want to make clear really quickly is that this isn't just a theory that maybe Loch Ness could go to the North Sea and that's why he's not seen. There are pictures. Okay, this guy took pictures of what he thought was the Loch Ness Monster in this other place, this Channery Point. Now, according to him, he wasn't taking pictures of the creature because he didn't even know the creature was there when he took the pictures. According to him, he was taking pictures of a swimmer and just happened to see the pictures of the thing in the background. But either way, there are actual photographs that appear to be a Loch Ness Monster type creature in this other body of water. So this is kind of one of those things that it is a theory that I'm coming up with that this thing could move back and forth, that I'm kind of formulating in my mind. But it's based on this article, and it's based on these photographs that this guy took that certainly seem to show that there is a Loch Ness Monster-like creature in Channery Point. Now, to me, that is amazing stuff. What exactly does it mean? Really, who knows at this point? We don't. But I think that it really opens up an entire new world of possibility. Because now we don't have to just focus all of the search and all of the attention on Loch Ness to try to find this thing. We can also look out into the North Sea and into the inlet there. We can look in that area now and have a reasonable expectation that we might be able to find Nessie. I would like to know where is its normal stomping grounds. If Loch Ness is simply a breeding pond for this thing, if it's traveling all the way down this system to get to Loch Ness to lay eggs or reproduce, and then going back, where is it going back to? Where is its home base, so to speak? Where do these things hang out normally? Do they have a territory that they kind of swim around? Or are they nomadic? Do they just kind of go wherever the hell they feel like it? Those are all questions that, to me, are very interesting, and I would like to try to find answers to. Also, it depends on what you believe Nessie is. That is going to decide what Loch Ness is to Nessie, if that makes sense. If you believe that Nessie is some sort of sea creature that travels down to lay eggs in the loch, then the loch could be a breeding ground for that thing. It could be where they go to lay eggs. If you believe that Nessie is a plesiosaur, for example, well, scientists believe that plesiosaurs were warm-blooded creatures who breed there and actually gave birth to live young. So if that's true, then it can't be going down to Loch Ness to lay eggs because it doesn't lay eggs. It gives birth to live young. Could it be that it comes down, it gets pregnant, right? Up in the North Sea somewhere, wherever it's hanging out. It meets another Loch Ness monster, and it's like, hey, I like the way you look. I like the way you look too. They go out to the movies, whatever. They get it on, and boom, Nessie's pregnant. So maybe Nessie finds out she's pregnant and is moving along with the pregnancy, realizes she's pregnant. When it reaches a certain point in time, she makes the journey down and gives birth at Loch Ness, and that's where she stays with the young Loch Ness monster, the baby, until it reaches a certain age of maturity that it's able to travel back with her, and then they go back to wherever they're from, out in the North Sea somewhere or wherever. Maybe. That's another possibility. Now, that's kind of silly the way I did it, but you get the point. That could be a possibility because in the loch, there's probably not going to be as many predators as there is out in the North Sea and the ocean. So maybe having the baby there in the protected loch, and it might not just be Loch Ness, it might be any of these other lochs that are on the way to the North Sea too. You know, they might stop off at any one of these and do this. But maybe that's a way that the young baby Loch Ness monster can be protected and can be able to eat the fish and stuff that are in the loch and survive until it reaches an age and a size that it'll be safe for it to be out in the ocean. Maybe that's something that they do to try to ensure that the species continues. Maybe it's some kind of evolutionary thing that they automatically do so that they know that their baby's going to be safe to go out on its own. Some creatures stay with their young. Some creatures don't. You know, I talked earlier about sea turtles, how they just kind of lay a ton of eggs on the beach and bury them in the sand and jet. They're gone. The babies hatch and they make a mad scramble trying to get to the water. And it's a feeding frenzy of birds and all kinds of other predators that get a free meal. And a lot of those turtles never make it to the ocean. Most of them probably don't. But some do, and that continues the species. The sea turtle's adaptation and solution to the survival of the species is to lay massive amounts of eggs. Tons and tons and tons of babies ensure that some of them will survive to adulthood to lay their own massive amounts of eggs. Snakes do the same thing almost. They lay a bunch of eggs, and when all the babies are hatched, the babies are perfectly capable of killing you if they're poisonous snakes when they're hatched. They have enough venom already to take you out, and they go and they live their life and they hunt. You have other species that will stay with their young. Human beings are a great example. We stay with our young until they are adults, pretty much. Sometimes a lot longer. If you know your kid's kind of wonky and doesn't have his stuff together, maybe you stay with him until he's like 70 or something. Who knows? Other species of animal do the same thing. They stick around with their young. You find that in a lot of the primate species as well. They will kind of nurture their young. Cows do the same thing. Cows will hang out with their babies and make sure that their babies are cool. Now, one thing that a lot of people probably don't know if they've never had cows, I have had cows in my life. I have a ranch. And the cows, when you sell the babies, for about a week or two after you sell their babies, all they do is cry. Now, it's not crying like we do. It's not a bunch of tears running down their face and blowing their nose into tissues. But they wail and they moan and they go all night long and drive you absolutely crazy. And there's no way that you can listen to that and not understand that those cows are sad because their babies are gone. They miss their children. They're scared for their children. They care about their young. They take care of their young. So you have it both ways in nature. So it depends a lot on what you believe Nessie is as to what purpose the loch holds for Nessie. Maybe they just view it as a good feeding area that they come to every once in a while to really stock up on food. If they do something like hibernation, which Old Boy was talking about, then they would have to build up a good supply of calories to survive the hibernation. Bears will eat everything in sight for a month or two before they go to hibernate and put on a tremendous amount of fat. That way they can survive their hibernation. There's some species of fish that do something kind of similar to hibernation. It's very interesting, but they don't really bulk up for it. It's weird. Fish have the ability to freeze solid. You could take a fish and get it out of your fish tank or whatever in a baggie of water. You could put that in the freezer and freeze that fish. You can leave that fish in the freezer for whatever amount of time you want to leave the fish in the freezer. When you get the fish back out of the freezer and defrost it, it will come back to life. Isn't that amazing? There's species of insect that can do the same thing. That is a way that they have developed the ability to survive really, really harsh winters when lakes and river systems freeze solid almost. Is they have the ability to freeze and come back. Very cool stuff. So it's hard to tell what Nessie is capable of because we simply don't know what Nessie is in reality. There's theories out there. People have all kinds of theories on what they are. But the interesting thing is, a lot of the theories of what Nessie could not be are kind of out the window now. Because some people have said that there's no way Nessie could be a plesiosaur because the water in the loch is too cold and there's not enough food there for her, and you'd have to have a breeding population, and that would cause a problem for the amount of food that's available, all that kind of stuff, right? If Nessie can just jet out to the ocean whenever she wants, that problem is no longer a problem. It is completely and totally up in the air right now as far as what it could be and what this really means. I mean, it opens everything up. And I'm stoked about it. As a person that loves mysteries and I love animals and I love the idea of solving these mysteries and finding the answers to the questions and researching this stuff, this is like Christmas 100 times in a row. It's amazing because there's so many possibilities now that puts back on the table a lot of things that have been taken off the table because of mitigating circumstances of being locked in that little area. Now, that is a relative term when I say little area because Loch Ness is not little, it's big. It's very large. But as compared to the ocean, it's not. Okay, and when you're dealing with a creature that could be 40, 50 feet long, and you're considering you have to have a breeding population. Now, a breeding population does not mean 2 or 4. Okay? A breeding population is enough animals to ensure the survival of the species, but not just in the ability of them to reproduce. It also has to do with their genetics because you have to have enough genetic diversity in that breeding population for there not to be massive defects. Because what happens, and you find this a lot in human beings with a lot of the royal families, they would inbreed a lot. And what you get through inbreeding, especially close inbreeding of like brothers and sisters and first cousins and stuff, what you end up with is a lot of genetic mutations to where you end up with really jacked up kids who have deformities and all kinds of really bad stuff going on with them. And it's not just the outward elephant man looking deformities, it's also a larger propensity for disease and different genetic mutations that cause weakened immune systems and weakened organs and all that kind of stuff. It's bad news. Okay, that's why you're not supposed to reproduce with your family. It's not what you're supposed to do. So when you have a breeding population of any animal, it has to be enough individuals of that species with different genetics to ensure enough genetic diversity for that species to continue on into the future. Because let's say you have genetic markers from 5 different families, and that's it. Well, family 1 is going to marry somebody out of family 2. And then their kids are going to have the genetics from family 1 and family 2. Family 3 might marry somebody from family 4. So that's going to join those 2 together. Then you got 5 over here. They might marry somebody from any one of the families. So that'll join them together. And as you can see, that circle is starting to get a lot smaller already. Now you take that a couple generations down the line. Next thing you know, everybody's already related. So you're already inbreeding from a genetic standpoint. And you've only gone a few generations. Now carry that further into the future, 10 generations, 50 generations, 100 generations. As you can see, it becomes a mess very quickly. So to have a breeding population, you have to have enough different families, so to speak, that you can ensure enough diversity so that you're not going to have those major problems. Okay, now, if you really think about it, we're all related anyway. You know, the Bible says that you are your brother's keeper. That everybody's your brother and your sister, right? And if you believe in the Bible like I do, they have the story of Adam and Eve, the first two human beings, who are the mother and father of the rest of humanity. If you are a person that believes in science and not the Bible, if you are not a religious person at all and you believe in evolution or whatever, you got the exact same situation. There is no difference. At some point, whether you believe man evolved from apes or whether you believe man evolved from monkeys or whether you believe man evolved from pigs or whatever the hell you believe, at some point, the first man and the first woman came into being. Whether it is through creation or whether it is through evolution, at some point, there was the first one of each. At some point, the first man and the first woman had a child. It might not have been the same first man and first woman. They might have got killed. Who knows? Another couple might have came up. There might have been several that came around the same time. At some point, the first man and woman had a baby. That population of men and women in the very beginning had to be very small. If you look at creation, you're talking 2. If you look at evolution, you're talking at the most several hundred or a couple thousand maybe, at the most. Total population of the new evolved modern man and modern woman. So they start reproducing and making babies, and their babies start having babies, and their babies start having babies, blah, 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 all the way down to us. At this point, everybody is related to everybody. It's not going to be really close. So in other words, I may be related to you right now who are listening, but it's not like I'm your brother or your first cousin or your second cousin. It's distant. But genetically, we are all related. We're all going to share a lot of the exact same genetics. Not just because of what species we are, but also because of all of the inbreeding that has taken place through all the generations. So we are all related, no matter what you believe. But the secret is that we are all not so closely related. That's the point that I'm getting to. The very long-winded way I got to it, I apologize for. But that's the point, is that there is enough genetic diversity in the human genome to where we do not have the massive mutations and deformities that would take place in a much smaller population of creatures. So you have to have a large enough breeding population to where the species can survive. Because if you start having all these mutations and stuff, that shortens the lifespan. That shortens the ability to reproduce and to take care of the young until they get old enough to reproduce themselves. It drastically reduces the total amount of the population, is what I'm saying. So you have to have enough. Before, they would think there's no way that there could be that many in Loch Ness for it to still be around. Therefore, it can't exist. But now, if the Loch Ness Monster is traveling to the sea, back and forth whenever it wants, and if it actually lives out in the sea, all of a sudden, that breeding population goes from impossible to very probable. Now, I'm not saying for sure there is one, But I'm saying it's very probable that it could exist. The conditions are there for it to be very easy, for it to exist. There's enough room, there's enough food, there's no reason why it couldn't be there. Whether it is or not, who knows? I tend to think it is because I believe a lot of the evidence that I've seen. But I don't know for sure. But it's possible. 100% possible. Very, very interesting. Now, the other question is, what is the Loch Ness Monster? That's one of the big ones, right? That's the one everybody wants to know. What is it? Is it a plesiosaur? Is it some other type of sea creature that either we believe is extinct or that we just simply haven't discovered yet? There's all kinds of tales of all kinds of different sea monsters that sailors used to tell, all the way from the Vikings all the way up to modern day. By modern day, I don't mean today, I mean recent past. There were tales of sea monsters. And they came in all kinds of different forms. So it's possible that what we're dealing with in Nessie is some species of sea animal that we have not yet discovered. Or, as I said before, something that was previously believed to be extinct. It could be a plesiosaur, it could not be. See, when people hear the word plesiosaur, they think it's one creature. But there's actually multiple different types of plesiosaurs and different ages that it lived. And the most popular and the most prevalent as far as population and everything and the amount of them was during the Jurassic period. Now, I'm doing that straight from memory, so I may be wrong. But I believe during the Jurassic period is where there were the most plesiosaurs. But there's a plesiosaurus, and then there's like the plesiosaur or something like that. There's two main versions. One has a short neck and is like a chase down predator, like it chases after things and eats it. And then the other one has the long flowy neck, and that one is more of a sit still and wait for prey to come to you kind of creature. Now that's what the theory is on them. Nobody really knows for sure because we don't see them. They're not here for us to study. That's what they believe. The one with the long neck would be the one that Nessie is, if it's a plesiosaur. Now, I think that is the plesiosaurus, but I might be wrong. Once again, from memory, I don't have it in front of me. But there's even argument over the neck. Some people believe that the neck was long and flexible, and that the plesiosaur would actually hang out down at the bottom and just kind of go around with the neck and head looking for things to eat and grabbing them. Other people tend to believe that the neck was actually stiff and it wasn't very flexible. And their theory was that the reason the neck was so long was so that the creature could get up on schools of fish, and before the giant body would get there, the head would get there a lot sooner because of the long, long neck, and that way it could feed on schools of fish before the schools of fish were alerted to the fact that there's a giant monster trying to eat us. There's a whole lot more to that I could go into, but we're almost out of time, so I'll cut that short there. But the idea is we don't know for sure what it is. If it is a plesiosaur, I think it would be the one with the long neck. But who really knows? I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was a really fun one to do because it's brand new information that I just learned, and it's really interesting, and it's something that blows this thing wide open, in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Let me know what you believe Loch Ness Monster is, or even if you believe it doesn't exist, and all of that. And I'm going to throw it back over to Old Boy and get his final sum up, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Thank you, brother, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It was really interesting. I'm glad I found the article and sent it to James so you guys can all enjoy it for on Sunday when we play it. So other than that being said, leave your comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what your opinion is. Tell us what you think it is. Plesiosaur, you think it's something else? Does it have a long neck, short neck? Tell us what you think. Let us know what you think it is. Maybe it's a new species of creature we don't even know about, guys. That would be awesome if it's true. But I kind of agree with James. What I think that's what it is, and what he was explaining earlier. So I want to thank everybody from Parax Radio who listens to us every Sunday night. And our YouTube fans who watch the show on YouTube, on James Hershey's YouTube page, check it out, subscribe. There's all kinds of information, all kinds of different shows, all our old stuff, and even the paranormal news he does, and video games, and all kinds of stuff. You guys want some merchandise? We sell shirts, blankets, all kinds of cool stuff. COVID-19 mask. Let us know, and we will even sign it for you if you want us to. So let us know what you guys want. We'll get it done. And thank you very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Hunters, Demon Lovers. I love you, and have a good night, and blessed be.
Thank y'all for tuning into the show. Thank y'all for all the support that you give us. I was really excited and stoked about this one. This one was a lot of fun for me. I hope that I didn't go too deep into things and nerd out too much on you. I have a tendency to do that when I get excited. But just thanks for all the support, man. We've been doing this for over 3 years now, as far as staring goes. And we're just getting started. We're having a hell of a lot of fun still doing it. And I just love doing these shows for you guys. I hope that you're enjoying them as much as we're enjoying doing them. So just thank you. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where every episode of Staring is. That's where all the episodes of Tales from the Abyss, the TV show that we do with our paranormal groups, is. That's where the paranormal news is. That's the new show that I'm doing, to where I do articles like this, like I did tonight. And we go over the article. You get to see it yourself, see the pictures, judge for yourself. And we kind of go over what it is. There's also video game stuff I do on there. I'm a big gamer. I have been since I was a kid. I love video games. So I got some of that on the channel too. There's all kinds of cool stuff for you. It's 100% free. So go and check it out and subscribe and enjoy. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's TESPRING.com/store with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. That's where all the merch is. There's tons of different designs, tons of different merchandise there. If you want to support the show, that's a great way to do it. Go get yourself some merch and wear your staring colors proud. Thanks again for everything, guys. I love you, and I appreciate the time that you give us every week. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.